Hi everybody, welcome back to another sort of how-to video. Today's is on the seat of my S1000R. Yep, I decided to buy a BMW S1000R after the Hayabusa, and I've had it for probably about a month now, just under. This thing, which is the seat for it, is incredibly hard. It's okay for short runs, but I took it on a long run probably about a week, 10 days ago, and my arse was battered, absolutely hammered, and I thought, I can't carry on like this, I need to do something with it. I had about 7 hours in the saddle, and the pain was just excruciating at the end of it, and it was hurting for about 3 or 4 days afterwards as well. So I thought, I can't carry on like this, what do I do? I had a look at loads of different options around air seats and, you know, all the rest of it. And this was the solution that a lot of people suggested or have already done when it comes to thick seats or hard seats. You know, the installation of a gel pad, which is this thing here, to make the seat softer and more comfortable for you know, for riding. So I thought, oh, okay. And there's a bunch of videos that are available on YouTube that talk about the gel insert. There's some people that have done it, you know, just by plonking that thing on top of that. There's other people that have actually taken the cover off. Where's it gone? Taken the cover off, and then you know, cut it out and placed it inside, which is the kind of path that I'm going to follow. That's what I'm going to do. But somebody commented on one of the videos that when you put the gel insert in, the pad, the gel pad, absorbs a lot of the heat. So when it's the summer and you know, you're up to like 25-30 degrees here in the UK, for argument's sake, and this you know, you're out riding and this receives the heat. If you've got just a pad underneath it, the pad absorbs the heat and it retains it. So when you sit back on it, you're constantly getting the heat from the gel pad through your seat, which gets uncomfortable, and I don't really fancy that. So what some people suggested was to get a foam topper and put that topper on top of the gel pad, and then that will cure the problem, but you still get the kind of softness. So that's the plan for today. That's what I'm going to try and do in today's video, and hopefully, I mean, I've never done this before, it's the first time. Hopefully it will work out okay and I won't end up needing to buy another seat. So the kind of things that I'm going to need today, well, the kind of things that I've got this depth gauge, and it's showing 28.2 millimeters at the moment, and the 28.2 millimeters is a combination of that thickness. So I've got the thickness of the gel pad, as you can see, and then I've got the thickness of the foam as well, as you can see. So I measured both of those, and that worked out to be 28.2 millimeters, which is roughly the depth that I'm going to have to cut into and chop out from this seat in order to put the gel pad on, and then after I put the gel pad on, to put the foam topper on and bed it all in. So that's my kind of gauge. Then I've got a steel rule, a knife just to pull out the staples, a Sharpie, some grips, a screwdriver in case I need it, a blade, and some insulation tape. And the insulation tape, what I'm going to do is just measure 2.8 centimeters up and then mark it off, and that will be my depth gauge for the blade. The back side of this is going to be an interesting one, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how I'm going to get into that, in all honesty. So what I'm going to do is firstly have a starting point. So I'm going to mark somewhere on here with my Sharpie on the leather, and then on the seat on this side, and then also the leather on the seat on this side as well. So that will be my kind of refitting point. I'm going to take off all of these staples, but then as you can see here, right, it's really kind of difficult to get in. I don't know how they've managed. If I'll show you that one there for argument's sake. Not sure if you can see that, but I don't know how they've managed to get in to there. You know, that point is okay. You can kind of see it in there. But how on earth they've managed to get into that point, I don't know. I'll have to figure that out as I go along. Maybe just have to glue it when I reseat it. So the first thing is going to be to set my marking points. So when I come to recover it, I'll try and put it back in the same place. Take off all of these staples, remove all of those, peel the seat cover back, and then we'll come back and see what's there. Okay, so that's what it looks like removed. That's the seat underneath. It's quite firm, as you can see it. Those are all the staples that I pulled out of it. That's the cover. Which you can see little bits of the seat. You know, with these ones, they've got the securing mechanism underneath the seat through some bolts, and you can see the damage that starts to occur when you have to peel this part back to get to the seat clamping bit, which is a real pain. I don't know why they just didn't, you know, do what a lot Suzuki does and have a couple on the side without needing to peel stuff back. But anyway, so what I'm going to do now, I mean, you can see that there's a slight curvature here. Don't know how I'm going to be able to maintain that, but I'm going to follow one of the other YouTube videos that I saw and create a template just on this outer curve here, on this one with my Sharpie, and then I'm going to leave a little bit of room, maybe a couple of 3 inches from the top, a couple of 3 inches from the back, where I'll put the gel insert in. And what I'll do is draft out the template here, on here, and then I will make a template out of card or paper, cut it out so it fits, and then use that template, place it on the gel, cut out the gel, place it on the foam, cut out the foam. And once that's done, it'll be a case of removing this foam by cutting it out and putting that in there. Sounds fairly straightforward. Okay, so you can see that I got to a stage where I've measured it all up, mocked it all up, and taken some drawn some lines for a template. With this part here, as mentioned, I just followed the curvature of the seat around with my Sharpie, and got myself the outer edge. Then I think I measured about 2.5 inches from back there, and about 1.5 inches from the front to give myself that space that I need to extract. Found the center, and that was more by kind of, you know, eye as opposed to measuring it, because I didn't know how to find out with the absence of a fixed point where you'd be able to how you'd be able to find the center. So I just kind of put a ruler down the center, looked at it, looked about right, and drew my line. Then I found the center of this piece here, drew a line down it, and before I start cutting anything, I'm going to offer this up to here to see where it is. So that runs all the way center down here. Okay, so now you can see what I've got, how much space I've got, and all the rest of it. And this particular pad isn't as big to cover that piece out, or sorry, to cover that piece, so I'm just not going to cut that piece out. I'm only going to cut as much as the material that I have, no more. So with this particular pad, it covers most of it, but it doesn't cover all of it, which is fine. no need to cut that out. So I'm going to draw a line down here, and I'm going to draw a line down here, and keep those pieces, keep that piece of foam. And what this allows me also to do is draw on top of the gel. So the small amount that I need to nip from here, the small amount that I need to nip from here. But more importantly, it allows me to follow that line with my Sharpie and all across here and down here, yeah, to cut the gel pad. And then I can use the gel pad as the template for my foam. So that's what I'm going to do now. That's the plan. Back shortly, folks. Right, okay, so I decided to ditch the idea of drawing a template directly onto the gel. Because it doesn't give you room for errors, so I decided instead to use a piece of paper. Again, drew out an initial template on the seat, and then from the seat got a normal piece of paper, A4 size, which was luckily the same thickness as the gel pad, so I didn't need to, sorry, same width, so I didn't need to trim the paper down, but it was much longer. So I found the center of the paper just by folding it, marked the bottom, marked the top, and then placed with, you know, this, depending upon how thick your paper is, you're able to see through. It's not coming up on camera, but you're able to see through just a little, just enough to find where the center is, whether it lines up, and you can see it just about there. So I lined up the bottom with the bottom and the top with the top, and then I just started marking out different points, follow the template around here, and just snipped it, cut it out, and I was left with that. I was also able to draw the straight line, so the piece that I cut out from the foam will be all of this here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is use this template, put it on here, like that, draw around this, and then cut it out from here. And then once I've cut the template out, that really becomes obsolete, I'll be able to use that as the template to cut it out from the foam. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so that's the progress so far. All of that is mapped out. I managed to cut the gel, and what I ended up doing was, you can see here that originally I was looking to cut it off at a tangent, but when I placed the gel on top of the seat like so, it didn't make any sense just to nip that piece off. Rather, I just came straight down here, so I'll keep that square as possible and make my job as easy as possible. Now, this thing is very, very sticky, and it's not easy to cut. You have to pass the blade over multiple times and just go a little bit deeper, some people use WD-40 just to ease the friction, which I tried, and it helps a little bit, but just be mindful of that when you're cutting that. You might have to have several passes of it. Then once that was cut out, I put it back on. Quite happy with that at the moment. Then I transferred this across to the foam, grabbed a corner of the foam, put that down square on the corner, and then I just mapped around it with my Sharpie. And this is the point that I was saying. So there's the line of my Sharpie. I've got the outside line, I've got the inside line, and I've cut on the outside just to give myself that margin for error. So when I start cutting this, I'm going to cut this on the inside, just so I've got that tight, snug fit, and if I need to take a little bit more out, I can. Right, so that's that done. Now, the collective depth of that is 2.8 centimeters. So what I'm going to have to do is chop this down about 2.8. And in order to do that, where's my blade? I'm going to measure 2.8 from there to there, put a strip of insulation tape around it to act as my depth gauge, and then start chopping. updates follow. Right, status update. I ended up taking it off. Let's see if anybody's interested to know what the undercarriage looks like, or the seat plate looks like. That's what it is. Once you take the seat cover off, it's literally just stapled in. You can probably see some staple marks there. It's just stapled in and stapled into the plastic. And once you remove all the staples, this thing just kind of peels off. So as you can see, I've started to make my incisions. I've done all the perimeter. I've done all the central lines. And now what I've got to do is do the horizontals and start picking it out block by block. And as you can see, it's a bloody messy process. Right, updates to follow. Right, okay, so that's what it looks like when it's been carved out. And as you can see, it is a bloody messy process. And that's probably as smooth as I'm going to get it. I've gone as far as I think I can possibly go. And once you've peeled out, you know, once you've done the blocks, you just pick these out. So you do your diagonals, you do your horizontals, and then you cut it to the depth with the blade. As mentioned, that's what I use. So I cut up to that point with the Stanley, with the insulation tape is on the Stanley blade, and then I made sure that I went down like that, all the way down. And you can see that, you know, you get the depth mark of the blade across and along, and then you pick it out, and then essentially it's just a case of getting another blade and smoothing it all out, picking out all the big bits and then just smoothing it out like that, and then turning the blade around and smoothing it out around the sides. So I'm still within my lines, which is great. So I measured it about 2 or 3 times, but as with these things being the way that they are, you have to kind of adapt. And what I found was that even though I'd marked the center of this and the center of that and had it all kind of lined up when I drew the template, when I actually put it on, it was off. So this was too big. So what I had 2 choices. One was keep the lines center as possible and cut both sides. I didn't really see the benefit of that, because this is going to be underneath the foam, and then it's going to be covered by another fabric, and it's going to be covered by the seat cover on top. So whether that line matches up with that really makes no difference to me. So what I did was I pressed this side up against there, got it all snug, and then I used my Sharpie and drew over the excess line, and then took it out and chopped it off, and there was about that much left. So that's what I've just cut off. And now what I'm going to do is I've got some carpet spray glue, kind of it here. I've still got it open. I'm going to get rid of all the excess from here, you know, the debris, try and get it as smooth and as clean as possible. And then this comes with, this is incredibly sticky, really sticky. This has got the backing on it. I'm not sure you can see it. There you go. This has got the backing on it. That's really sticky. This has got the backing on it. I'm going to take the backing off. I'm going to put the carpet spray down, or the tack adhesive down, and I'm just going to mold that into there. Okay, and then once that's done, I'm going to put this one on top, and that will be pretty much my seating, or the soft part of my seating, done. And then once that's done, it will be a case of getting another fabric piece and putting that on top, you know, like a lining piece, so it covers the you know, these gaps. When you sit on it and move around on it, you know, you don't want these coming undone. So then it's another spray glue all over it, put the lining fabric on top, and that will keep it all nice and compact, nice and tight. Right, update to follow. Okay, progress update so far. So I've cut out all the bits around the frame, done that, and I've put in the gel pad, as you can see. I'm not sure what happened, but I ended up cutting that too big. Measured it a couple of times, made sure it was right. Well, I thought it was right, but evidently it wasn't. So I had to put in a little strip from one of the offcuts that I had there. Put it in, and that's okay. It's more at the front rather than at the back, so I don't mind the join at the front too much. This thing, the gel pad, comes with a film on top of it and underneath it, and that is stuck on good and proper. And when you pull it off, the whole thing will stretch and expand, and then it will go back to the original shape that it was. But it's a real nightmare to get in because it's sticky, and you've got to get that thing off, and it stretches as well. So the best thing to do that I found was use the carpet grip adhesive, which is, where's it gone? Oh, there it is. That thing there. Let me find it actually. That was it. Heavy duty off eBay. Tack that. You can see a little bit of the glue there. Tack that, and then once that's started to set, put the gel pad on and push it down. And to be honest with you, I mean, I've not found it to be brilliant, probably because of the nature of the surface, that when you pull this off, it becomes porous, and you have uneven surfaces, so you know the bonding isn't great. If it was a flat surface, I'm sure it'd be much better, but how are you going to get a flat surface like that at home unless you've got like the sanders and the equipment and stuff, which I haven't. So I used the adhesive, made it tacky, took the plastic, that piece off the back of the gel pad, stuck the gel pad down, and now I'm gonna put some more adhesive on top of that. Actually I probably won't, because that's sticky as well. Can you see that? So I'll probably just put this top memory foam cushion on top of that. Now I measured about 2.8 millimeters, and I cut till about, oh, hold on. I cut to about 2.7, and as you can see, it's sitting just a little bit proud. You know, you can see that from the back surface, which is fine, because this foam, the one that I've got, you know, it's nice and soft, but it's not as good quality as obviously the BMW stuff. But the BMW stuff is hard. This is nice and soft. So I've kept it a little bit higher, a bit more proud, purely to allow for that sag when my arse goes on top of it. And once that's bedded down, I'm going to use the All Fix adhesive, and I'm going to cover this whole thing in adhesive, and then get a lining cloth and put the lining cloth on top of all of it, just to make it all tight, because the compromise will be at the seams. You know, you can see that there's it's tight, and that yeah, sorry, that comes back to the fact that I cut this a little bit bigger, and because I've cut it a little bit bigger, it's fitting in nice and tight. As you can see, I've cut on the outside of the line, which is what I was saying earlier on, which means that this was a little bit big. And when I cut the foam out of the seat, I cut on the inside of the line, so I've got a tighter gap and a bigger pad, and that's working okay at the moment, because I don't really need to mess about with anything. I can just drop it straight in. It's going to be a bit of a snug fit, but then that snug fit gives me room for wear and makes it a bit more durable. Because if it's a little bit loose over the weeks, months and years that you're riding it, you know, that will this will degrade, and that will increase the gap, and you know, it will cause all sorts of problems. So I've kept this right there. I've kept it a little bit bigger. It's nice and tight now, and once it goes in properly, you know, meaning that I've bedded all the corners down, I've put the adhesive over it, and then I put the lining cloth on top of it. God willing, it will be nice and tight and comfortable. Right, so next update to follow shortly. Okay, so that's what it's looking like at the moment. That's the lining fabric on top. Glued it in, just snipped off. and that's the gel pad and the memory foam underneath it. It's really soft. And that's how it was before, and that's how it is now. I'm happy with that. It's going to protrude a little bit once the top cover goes on, but I don't really mind, to be honest with you. With the gel insert on there, it's going to be much more comfortable. And this fabric just only got a few creases, but they're not going to show up underneath that. When you put that adhesive on, it bonds really quick, so you're going to get your fabric on proper. And because it's foam underneath, if it tacks too long and you need to adjust it and you pull it, it's going to damage the foam. So just be careful if you decide to go down that route. But now what I'm going to do is put that back on. We'll get the staple gun and start tacking it down and keep it tight, and then hopefully that'll be it. Job done. Okay, so that's the end piece stapled in. I had to get an electric staple gun, and that one needs to come out. And what you find is that you need to find the thickest piece, because the gun that I got had 22mm staples, and then I had to get the 15mm ones because they're the smallest ones I could find and use them. But then what you need to do is find the thickest part of the plastic that you can staple into. Going that way isn't too bad, or going into a part where there's a lot of foam underneath it isn't too bad. But things like this, that's difficult, because as you can see, you know, that's the 15mm, that's the smallest one that they do for that particular gun. Well, that could get my hands on, and you tack it in to the side and it goes straight through and starts protruding, right, or it starts pinching into the foam, and you know, it's just a matter of time before that pierces the foam. So you've got to be a little bit clever about where you put them. You know, so that one there, for argument's sake, I found like a thick piece of plastic that I could staple it into. Those ones up there, they're going in deep into the foam, so it's okay even if they do penetrate the plastic. These ones, that's not too bad because that's going into the thick part of the plastic. I can feel it if I push really hard against it, but that's a part of the seat where, you know, it's not going to get much, it's not going to take much abuse, and the rest of them are into the deep part of the foam, so it's cool. That's the back end, and all the way around, same on the other side. So what I'll probably do now is just get like a little bit of Gorilla Tape or something and just tape that off, make it look a little bit tidier. And I'll probably get some of that epoxy and just, you know, some of that, what's it called, dual compound araldite, and just stick that down, just make sure that's tight, that side, and then that's it, it's done. It's taken me a day to do it, but the end result looks pretty bloody good. Feels nice, seats tight. I won't really know what kind of difference it's made until I actually get on it, do a long distance ride on it. But at the moment I'm quite happy with the way that it's come out, considering that I've never done this before. It looks quite smart. Won't be able to tell. That's been fiddled about with. So yeah, I'll put it on the bike, I'll take it for a blast, and I'll tell you how it's turned out.